All right, let's dive in. Today we're going to be looking at Dr. Oz. And wow, you guys gave us a ton of stuff to go through. I gotta say, I was kind of surprised by just how much this guy's got going on, like Emmys, heart surgeries, and he's writing best-selling books. He seems to do a little bit of everything. The thing that really jumped out at me, though, was how he mixes traditional medicine with, like, acupuncture and stuff. Makes me wonder, how does that even work? But luckily, we've got our expert here who can help us break all this down and figure out what kind of impact Dr. Oz has actually had on healthcare. So where do we even start with someone like Dr. Oz?
Well, Dr. Oz definitely likes to push the boundaries. I think it's important to start by laying out just how qualified this guy is. We're talking a respected heart surgeon, a professor at Columbia University. He even runs the complementary medicine program at New York Presbyterian Hospital.
Wow, so this isn't just some guy with a TV show. Sounds like he's got the credentials. I mean, with all that, I'd figure he's mostly focused on research and teaching these days, right? How much the actual surgery.
Well, that's where Dr. Oz throws us a curveball. Turns out he's still doing over 50 heart operations every year.
Seriously? The TV show and the books and everything, that's some real dedication to his practice. Almost like he's making a point about still being a hands-on doctor.
Yeah, you could definitely see it that way. It's like he's saying, hey, I'm not just talking about health, I'm still out there doing it.
Right, okay, so we've got the whole surgeon side of things.
Yeah.
Then there's also those 9 daytime Emmy Awards he's got for the Dr. Oz show. That's a level of fame most doctors never even dream of.
Oh, yeah. The Dr. Oz show definitely brought health information to a huge audience. He was giving advice on everything from what to eat to how to exercise, and it reached millions of people who might never have thought about those things otherwise.
And that's on top of the books.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking New York Times bestsellers, Food Can Fix It, You, The Owner's Manual, You, The Smart Patient.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them. It seemed like he really wants people to take control of their own health, doesn't he?
You're picking up on something important there. See how a lot of his books have that you in the title? It's a pretty consistent message, this idea that you have to manage your own health. Don't just wait for the doctor to tell you what to do. Be proactive about it.
Yeah, I can see how that would really appeal to people, especially now that there's so much health information online.
Yeah.
But then he takes it a step further, right? Mixing acupuncture with traditional medicine. That seems like a pretty bold move.
And that's where we get into complementary medicine. It's all about combining regular medical practices with therapies that aren't considered traditional Western medicine.
So he's not saying ditch your regular treatment, just add some other stuff into the mix. I bet that gets some mixed reactions.
Oh, absolutely. It's not about replacing one with the other. It's about using them together, and that's an important difference. Like, he might suggest mindfulness techniques for stress alongside recommending surgery, but that's exactly what makes him so controversial. Some people love that he's open to different approaches, while others are skeptical about mixing it all up.
It's definitely a unique approach. Makes you think, how do you even balance those two worlds without messing either one up? I guess that's what we'll be digging into as we keep going with this deep dive.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing to get right. And that's part of what makes Dr. Oz so interesting, you know? But his ambitions, they go beyond medicine too. Remember back in 2022 when he ran for Senate? In Pennsylvania.
Oh yeah, that was a surprise. I mean, he was already a household name.
Yeah.
Best-selling author, TV star, the whole 9 yards. What do you think made him want to jump into politics?
It makes you wonder, right? Maybe he felt like he needed a bigger platform, a way to make a bigger difference. It's possible he saw a connection between healthcare and politics, like a chance to make changes that could help a lot of people, millions even.
Going from everyone's favorite TV doctor to a politician? That's got to be risky. Did it work? Did voters buy it?
Well, it was definitely a gamble, and the reaction, let's just say it was mixed. Being famous definitely helped him get recognized, but it also meant people were watching him closely.
Yeah, makes sense.
Some voters weren't so sure about his lack of experience in politics, and they questioned his ties to Pennsylvania. They wondered if being a celebrity would really make him a good leader.
I remember people calling him a carpetbagger a lot back then. Was not actually living in Pennsylvania a big problem for his campaign?
It definitely caused some problems. People who were against him said that if he hadn't lived in Pennsylvania for very long, he couldn't really understand the people who lived there. It brings up a big question about politics. What does it really mean to represent the people you're supposed to be serving?
So even though he was really successful in medicine and media, that actually worked against him in politics.
It's like his background was both a good thing and a bad thing.
So what about those communication skills? All that time on TV, did that give him an edge during the campaign?
Well, he's definitely a charming guy, and he's a good speaker. He knows how to connect with people. That helped him for sure. But for some voters, that same charm made them suspicious. They wondered if he was being genuine or if it was all just an act because he was used to being on camera.
So it's like the same skills that made him great at communicating suddenly became a problem when he went into politics. That's wild.
It really is. So after a tough campaign, how did it all end?
Yeah, what happened?
Well, Dr. Oz ended up losing, but it was really close. The election showed just how divided Pennsylvania was, and really the whole country. Maybe being famous and being on TV wasn't enough to win. Or maybe people just weren't ready to see him as a politician.
So after the election, did he just go back to being a doctor and being on TV? Or did he stay involved in politics?
He hasn't run for office again, but he does still talk about healthcare reform and gets involved in discussions about health policy. It seems like even though he lost the election, it might have given him a better understanding of how complicated healthcare is and how it's connected to politics.
So the politics thing might be over for him, but it sounds like the experience changed how he thinks about healthcare.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Getting into politics, even though it didn't work out, probably gave him a whole new perspective on the healthcare system.
It really shows you how everything's connected, doesn't it? Healthcare, politics, media, you can't really separate them. And speaking of media, we haven't talked much about how Dr. Oz actually communicates these complicated topics to so many people. How do you think he manages to get people who wouldn't normally care about medical stuff to actually listen?
That's a great question, you know. It's tricky to explain. I think a lot of it comes down to how good he is at taking really complicated information and making it easy to understand. He explains it in a way that anyone can relate to, but he doesn't dumb it down either.
Yeah, it doesn't just make it simpler, he makes it interesting too. He's got this energy, this passion that's kind of contagious. You can tell he really wants to help people.
Exactly. He's got that doctor authority, but he's also warm and friendly. And he's a good storyteller. He'll throw in personal stories, things that happen to his patients, even some jokes. It helps people remember the information. It's like he's meeting people right where they are and saying, come on, let's figure this out together.
It's like he's saying, hey, I'm not just some doctor in a white coat. I get it. I understand what you're going through and I want to help.
Right. That ability to connect with people on a personal level, to make them feel like he understands them, that's really powerful. It makes people trust him. It makes them feel like they're part of the solution.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've gone from the operating room to TV studios, from best-selling books to the campaign trail. It's pretty clear that Dr. Oz is a complicated guy who doesn't fit neatly into any one box.
Absolutely. He shows us what can happen when you combine a drive to innovate with a talent for communication. And he clearly cares about making the world a healthier place.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of Dr. Oz, what do you think is the most important thing we've learned? What's his real legacy? What's the impact he's had?
That's a tough one. If I had to boil it down to one thing, I'd say it's this. Dr. Oz has made us think differently about health. He's questioned the way things have always been done. He's been open to different ideas. And maybe most importantly, he's shown people that they have the power to take control of their own health.
He's shown us that we don't have to just do whatever the doctor says. We can be in charge of our own health journey.
Yeah. And whether you agree with everything he says or not, you can't deny that he started a conversation, a national conversation about how we approach healthcare, how much responsibility we have for our own health, and whether it's okay to mix different kinds of medicine.
Well, there you have it. From surgeon to TV star to politician, Dr. Oz has definitely led an interesting life, and it doesn't seem like he's done yet.
It'll be interesting to see what he does next.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.